Alright folks, so I've been trying to build this modal, but it's not working as I expected to work. So okay, so I'm expecting that when I click on the open modal button, it should just come up like this, whoop, and then when I click outside, it should go down like whoop. So I did a few modifications for which like this is not working as expected currently. So let me undo those changes and show you where we stand at this moment. Okay. Yeah, so it's coming up right. Okay, I'm expecting it to come up like this because I have these keyframes set up here, but after it does come up, when I click outside, it's just disappearing suddenly. I want it to like whoop down. Okay, now what can we do, right? So this modal, it's a controlled component, so basically whether it is shown or not shown is controlled by the client, the parent component, via this is shown switch. So how about this? How about when the client or when the parent changes is shown from true to false, we perform an animation and then get it disappeared instead of suddenly disappearing. How about that? So we could do something like this. We could have a use effect on is shown. So you see, if is shown, then show it, and if add, okay, so this is like adding the key listener, okay, and otherwise remove the key listener, and on takedown also remove the key listener. Key listener basically checks for the escape key. So if there is an escape key pressed, so if I go ahead and press the escape key, it'll go away. Alright, so maybe we can do something here, right? When it is false, we can check, right? If it is false because it was rendered the first time with is shown property as false, or was it that okay, no, it was actually true, then it got taken down. There has to be a distinction, right? So we could do something like this. We could say if something like is modal displayed, and then we can have a state something like this, is modal displayed set is modal displayed. So basically this is going to be a switch. So we have a hook created is switch hook, which is basically a state on a boolean, and you can toggle those values instead of like having to manually set it. So your switch will return three things. It will return toggle and set the value. So this is going to be toggle. Right. So if modal is displayed, we'll just toggle it. So let me just show you quickly the use switch hook. It's a simple thing. Basically it has a state with the initial value passed in as a prop or a parameter, and then you return that value and a function to toggle that value and the usual set value from useStat. So now that we have the toggling thing done, so if modal is displayed, then toggle that. You can add a class, right, like is blurring. If blurring is true if it was on but now it's getting turned off. So if is shown is true, we'll have to set it, right? So if it is true, we will have to set it as set is modal displayed true. So suppose initially it was false, and then it was is shown was false, then is shown became true. So this got triggered here, this use effect that comes into this branch, and we now know that okay, we have to now display the modal. So we set is modal displayed to true, and then this this function gets re-triggered, and now we have is modal displayed true. Okay, is shown remains what it was, so this use effect will not be called again. Is shown can be is modal displayed. Cool. And we don't need is hidden. Do we need is hidden? I don't think so. I don't think we need this is hidden. We can just keep the display none over here by default, so we don't need is hidden. Okay, so if it is shown is modal displayed, then it is shown, and if it is shown, it will work as expected. So it will just appear with an animation like this. Okay, so let's see if it works. Yep. What happens when I click outside? It goes away, right? So imagine what if like the initial value was not false. What if the initial value was true? Then it would work the same way, right? So for example, if I say use switch initial value, if I pass it as true, so the first post is the page from which this modal gets rendered. Okay, so let me just retry. Okay, this is working. That's cool. Now what happens when is shown becomes false? Well, if is shown is false, if it is the initial or like on mount false, doesn't matter. But if it is like, okay, it was true, now it's false, then we need to worry about it, right? So we can have another condition here. If is modal displayed, then we can get into this place and say, okay, remove the event listener, and since this is true, so just can toggle. But before doing this toggle, we have to be more careful, right? We first have to set some sort of blurring period. So we don't want to do it right away. We just want to say something like is modal blurring. Okay, is blurring the right word? Let's just see where it is. ReactJS is used to remove focus from it. So yeah, that's good. So is modal blurring, toggle is modal blurring, and set is modal blurring. Okay, so initially it's false, since the default value here is false. Yeah, so is modal blurring, we can just set is modal blurring to true. So now that we have is modal blurring to set to true, we can have another class here, is modal blurring, and if the modal is blurring, what we can do is we can perform an animation, right? And we can remove is shown. So, and what is modal blurring? I hate doing this because, you know, is shown is dependent on is displayed, shouldn't be dependent on is blurring, right? So I think we shouldn't need that. Maybe let's see. So if it is blurring, so if it is shown the display is block, that's fine. And if it is shown the content has this particular animation, and if it is blurring, we can just say, okay, if it is blurring, the content will have this kind of animation. So it's gonna take down sort of animation. So it's gonna be something like this. So it's gonna have a margin top of 0, and then it's gonna have 200 view height. So it's just gonna go down, right? So I don't think we need this. We can just get rid of that. The margin bottom thing. Okay, this one, what's gonna happen? It's gonna go down and then come back to the original place because we are not setting the final margin. So let's just see what happens here. So I click on that and I click outside. It just, okay, this is working as expected. The only difference is, only problem is it's coming back up, right? It shouldn't come back up, it should stay down. So how do we make sure that it stays down? We can say something like this, right? Margin top 200 too high. So if we do that, it just disappears. Oops. Also, we want the backdrop to disappear slowly, right? So the backdrop, yeah. So the backdrop needs to have an animation of its own. The backdrop will have fade away. Fade away. So it's like from opacity, whatever the opacity. Okay, so take down, do we need to worry about from though? From is already there, right? Okay, what just happened? Click outside. What just happened? Okay, I think we can just get rid of this one now. Or so from is needed, because otherwise you don't know where it starts from and where it ends. It just ends. Cool. So opacity, I think, is right. So we can keep this to a variable, right? Backdrop opacity. We can open our global vars right over here. Okay, the convention is spinal case. So you can see we have imported our vars right about here. Do we have that used anywhere else? I guess not. Okay, so both of these should have the same animation duration. We don't need that. And the final opacity will be 0. That's fantastic. It works exactly that I want. So we just need to make sure that all of it gets unshown. So this takes 0.5 seconds, right? So now we'll have to use JavaScript. Otherwise, yeah. Can we make no, it's a bit difficult. I guess we need to use JavaScript right now. Otherwise it's gonna get difficult. I tried to animate the display none, but simply doesn't work. So I suppose we can set a set time here, set timeout of 0.5 seconds, which is like excuse me, 500 milliseconds. And after 500 milliseconds we can just toggle this so that like it's no longer shown. And then also, okay, we should set, because it's a timeout, so that nobody knows what's gonna be the value, right? So set is modal display to false, and set is modal blurring also to false. Sounds good enough. I guess we don't need these togglers. Let's see. Alright. Okay, this is working. Fantastic. Alright, that's about it.